I like to blaze my own trail. I'm an Aries, and I like to live on the edge of civilized society. I do not like to form part of the middle. Um, it's funny, as I talk about all of these things, and I can absolutely trace the origin of every single idea that I have back. Every time I say something, I think, this reminds me of the idea that I formed because I was an anthropology major and began to think in a certain way about how society shapes individuals and what is the meaning of individual life within a larger framework. And as I began to study those existential questions in the raw through the study of other societies, you began to learn that basically it's all, you're making it up as you go along, or societies are, and that they find that conformity is the swiftest road to stability. Conformity is truly necessary to an ordered society. You have to have people willing to obey the rules in order to get along, no matter what level of society you're at. And I don't mind obeying the rules, but I very much love freedom of expression of all sorts. And for the most part, people who are busy conforming are not busy freeing themselves to express, nor having experiences that are worth expressing. And since those are the people I like to hang out with, I prefer to live my life on the edge, in the bohemian world, in the underground, in the underworld, in the whatever it is. Now, in order to live out there, however, I myself do not wish to be on the edge. I just want to live on the edge.
What's the difference?
Being on the edge means that you are living hand to mouth, that you don't have an income that you can count on, that your rent is due at the beginning of every month and you may not make it, that you can't buy clothes or a car or things that you might want because you are driven by an inner vision that, in a sense, compels you to remain on the outside, to follow that dream, and you will not merge with the great mass of people who go about their business day to day and raise families and watch television and stand in line in the supermarkets. That's necessary. I don't want everybody to give that up and fly to the edge. We'd tip over. The edge is supposed to be for select individuals who are driven there by their own needs, and that's what makes it an interesting place to live. Because everyone is raw. Everybody is, well, not everybody, but I mean, in general, people are living close to the skin, and there's a tingling and an excitement, and I like that. I like to be in that environment. And I wanted also the other thing I realized is that in the history of humankind, this generation, given the advent of computers and the fact that we're living in the midst of a computer revolution right now, women, for the first time in the history of humankind, are absolutely equal in power, have exactly the same, in this country, if you are white, if you are educated, if you are living in the United States of America in a city, and have access to a computer and sufficient resources to purchase what you want, you can have the job. I mean, one can. Not everybody will or everyone does, but a woman can. And I want to use that playground because it may be taken away from us any minute. I mean, either we might all be bombed back to the Stone Age, or people may decide that, that women, or most women may decide, in fact, for their own sanity, that they prefer to fall back into the middle and raise the children and shop and hunt and gather. And I believe there's some, legitimate some legitimate benefit in that.
There's a lot of writing on that now.
Yeah, that's a post-feminist. Yeah. And I mean, there's no question whatsoever that that men and women are made and created differently for historical reasons. And it's basically nature's need to multiply itself. All I'm saying is that for nature's need to be met, for there to be enough people in the breeding pool who have to support what they produce and produce in order to support the progeny, the society grows up around it, and these people do not have time to live out on the edge. So they form the great middle, and God bless them. I'm grateful to them every day.
Without the middle, there's no edge.
Without the middle, there's no edge, exactly. I rely on them. We have to live off the fat of a society. The arts are always on the outside.
Symbiotic.
Yes, it's absolutely. And I just want to be on the outside, and I needed to learn how to earn a place out there and how to keep a place out there. So my life in the government was very, very stable, and again, very fortunate, because I was able to do work in the government that absolutely met my criteria for meaningful work. I spent the first 25 years in psychopharmacology research, in research grants administration, learning about how the brain works, learning about how chemicals produced internally affect your thought and being and mood. And then in the past 10 years operating this program, which was what I really am good at, which is advocacy. I was the director of this program, which fed money to people in every state who were fighting for an equal chance at the plate for people with mental illness. And the people that I met there were so remarkably on the edge that I was as at home among that society and honored to be welcomed among it as I am to be welcomed and tolerated on the edge with those who are artists. So astrologically, the world of film and art and psychosis and drugs and alcohol and mental illness are all in the same house. It's all the 12th house, and that's my rising sign. In fact, it's the most wonderful insight from that astrology thing was that having been raised in an academic household and and having been educated in the Western world, I look at everything linearly, and I always wanted to be in the game and to be doing well at the game, whatever the game was. And so I felt you had to be good at everything. I mean, that the more you were good at, the better, the more fulfilled a person you were. And it was disappointing to me to learn that there were certain skills I didn't have. So up until I learned about astrology, I felt that I was settling for a certain thing, and there was only a unilinear scale of what a Western human could be. Sort of, there were areas into which you could excel, and if you didn't excel in everything, you were lesser than somebody who could. When I discovered astrology, I learned that there were 12 ways of being for starters, which immediately cut the pie down to something that was manageable, first of all, because it was impossible to attempt to become good at everything. But there was no way for me independently to arrive at a decision about what it was that should be more valued than others in this unilinear fantasy world. So in astrology, it was cut out for you. It said there are 12, at least 12, I mean 12 different ways of being, and within each of those 12 ways there are various ways in which you manifest those qualities. But here are your basic qualities, and so forth and so on. If it hadn't resonated, if I hadn't recognized myself instantly, if I hadn't recognized others instantly in their own parts of the pie, I wouldn't have picked it up again. And I have dabbled in many religious writings and other things that people read to try to determine, you know, what the hell it's all about and how to live out what we've been given here. So when I read about Aries, and I'm still not, you know, totally schooled in exactly every thing of what it is, but when I learned about what Aries was, that was who I am. And I learned that by eliminating from my life those things which really have no meaning to me as I manifest myself, I'm a much happier person, and I surround myself only with those things that are part of my life. And I invite them in, and I cherish them, and keep them close, and continually nourish myself from their presence, both animate and inanimate objects. I am as excited as I can be at this moment in my life because I am on the verge of creating a next thing for myself.
What is that?
It's going to be, on the one hand, I'm going to be doing administrative advocacy through, I'm going to be doing a lot of work in film and video with the Washington Film and Video Council Peer Awards, and because that's going to be the center. That I want to establish the center so Rosebud can hang over the edge. And Rosebud is too much of the center right now until there are more film and video competitions. We're occupying too much attention. And but we need to create that so that people will break off and say, you know, this is necessary now, and it gets sucked back into the center, and that's great.
Are you saying that Rosebud's becoming too mainstream?
No, it's not. But people are asking of it that it be that, and
ooh, that's frightening, isn't it?
Yeah, because they need it, and they want to pull it. They want to pull it up to what is needed, and I don't wish to be. I'm not annoyed at them for that. Where there is nothing, it is important that people shape what they need. And if this organization were peopled by others, and myself not among them, perhaps it would seek to grow and to emerge into the kind of film and video festival that people do deserve. So rather than change Rosebud and evolve in that direction, I decided to put my energies behind launching the Washington Film and Video Council Peer Awards. Because that is where the mainstream of film and video making should be taking place, and not in Rosebud. And what I have learned is that I wish each time to find my level and sink to it, because that's where I'm happiest, at the bottom, at the beginning, where things are starting, and where the energy is palpable. I like that. In addition to doing that, I am interested, I would sometimes, I think, that I might like to sort of launch myself as a more daring, upfront personality. Secretly, I would like to be a persona, a personality. I would like to be someone, I'd like to be Natasha. I would like people in this town to know of Natasha and who Natasha is, and have it mean somebody admired and respected and funny. And beyond that, I would like to be known as, you know, some outrageous queen.
traveled alone, and you said, of course.
Oh, of course.
What does that
because I learned early on that you do not have experiences of the same sort when you are traveling with someone. When you're traveling with someone, you're having an experience with that other person, but everything you do being with someone is a compromise. I hate traveling with somebody unless I'm in a car and we're going, you know, in one direction. But if I'm exploring has to be done by yourself. Explorers are unitary people, because when you're traveling with someone, every step you take is another decision. Do you want to turn left, turn right, stand up, sit down, eat here, eat there, order this, order that? Everything's a matter for conversation and for mutual compromise. And compromise is being back in the middle again. It's not allowing yourself to push out to the edge, meaning that the experience is all yours. You're not explaining it or interpreting it to somebody else, and you're not having to listen how it's affecting them. Everything that you're going through is owned entirely by you and is happening inside of you, for you, by you. And for an Aries person, it's just, that's what we're all about. We're so me-oriented, and it's such a privilege to be able to do that and not have to censor it. I haven't had a mature relationship in my life. I never wanted to mature to the point where I had to compromise in learning to accept a person who failed to meet my expectations, or to learn to live in a relationship where I wouldn't be able to meet the expectations of my mate. I wanted to stay in a relationship until we stopped meeting our expectations and then leave. If you're rearing young, you have to conserve their lives. You have to conserve a space for them. Or at least I would. I would have been a very conservative parent. I would have wanted to produce in my children the stability that I experienced in mine, even though it's funny, I speak about such a stable life. I really didn't have one. I mean, it was a kind and loving wife, and nobody ever beat me or cursed at me or said an ugly word. But I mean, I was in a family of divorce and so forth and so on, and I was in boarding school and summer camps and so forth, and didn't have a life at home until I was 10, really, because I was in these camps and schools. But it taught me the ability to live independently of a family. And I was very good at it. I was not unhappy there. I loved it. And it was those days that I returned to when I finally divorced and realized that I wanted to seek a life that was entirely my own making, one that was not compromised to the needs of one or the other, or both, not to mention compromising for the needs of children. So the amazing amount of freedom that exists when you have no relationship and no children, and when, thank God, your family is healthy, and my mother is healthy and well, you are just free to fly in the world, and a relationship just drags you down, drags me down. I don't want him. It's like the famous quote from Ms. Magazine, that I became the man I wanted to marry, and I became the mother of my child, or I became the mother of my inner child, if you will. I'm not saying that I would not mourn, be lonely, be depressed. I mean, my God, I haven't turned into a robot. I have been blessed by not having to face that lately. But in becoming the man I wanted to marry, I simply took on all of those traits that I used to so admire in a man, and that would make me want to attach myself to him. And I figured, given the goodies I've got and the luck that I've had, I could be whatever kind of a guy I wanted to be. And one of my favorite kind of guys to be from time to time, particularly out in nightclubs dancing, is an 18-year-old boy. They are just, I mean, it's, if you're alone in a dark nightclub with a lot of loud music, When you want to assume a posture and even dance a certain kind of dance to a certain kind of music, the body movements and poses and gestures that you adopt in that setting are those of an 18-year-old guy who's, you know, out there and cool and so forth. And it's comfortable. It's comfortable. I can put that skin on and feel perfectly at home. I was the aggressor for 15 years during the sexual liberation days. And I was happiest, I mean, not happier than I am now, but I was given the times and given what we could do and given the freedom that there was, I learned to become the aggressor immediately. And I was happy as a clam because I just went out and took whatever I wanted. And I was never, I never wanted to be asked. I always wanted to do the asking.
Were the men on the other side of that threatened by it?
No, they loved it. God, men will go down for anything.
It took some burden off them.
Oh, they didn't even care. I mean, we're talking one night stands here. We're not talking about relationships. We're talking about short-term passion. And it was the most manly thing to do because that's what men do. I mean, they can do that. And so learning, I taught myself how to separate sex from love. As I had earlier taught myself how to separate love from marriage, and and then the next step was sex from love, and the next thing was love from life. And so I don't like falling in love. I don't ever want to fall in love again. God, it's like, it's total powerlessness. It is the worst state of being I can think of. It is total helpless powerlessness. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And nothing is worth that anymore. God. I was unfortunately in love of my own will in 1989 after I had sworn off for since 1975. And I thought, well, let's try it again, you know, deliberately, let's try it again. You're now a mature woman. You haven't done the younger man, mature woman thing. Let's give it a try and see whether this is any different. And I was quite certain that I was mature and quite certain I could handle it. And the minute I accepted that I was in love and admitted it and so forth, I was zapped back to age 14 in my mind. My brain became the mind of a 14-year-old. I was an idiot. I was a complete, jealous, possessive, insecure, powerless dope. I hated myself. And I was caught. It was a biological thing. You let your guard down, and the biology kicks in, and it was torture. It was torture. It lasted 2 weeks, and it took me 2 years to get over it because it was so stupidly. It was so humiliating. So humiliatingly painful, and it was absolutely out of my control. I could not do what I ended up feeling and doing. So that taught me. I'd like to be a woman about town. I would like to be comfortable everywhere, and so far I am. But I strive to maintain that because clubs change, people come and go. You got to stay out there. Particularly in this town, it's very hard to earn a reputation and keep it because the people who helped you make it disappear so soon. They move on, or they fall back into the center eventually. And if you're going to be staying out here, you've got to be constantly reinventing yourself and reinventing the people you hang with so that they know who you are and why you're there and what you're all about. my greatest fear would be to ever appear to be that crazy old lady in the corner. Who the hell is she? Who the hell does she think she is? That's the question I always want to be able to answer. Who the hell do you think you are?
Who the hell do you think you are?
Well, I am, I can talk, that's what I've been talking about, who the hell I think I am. I have the past history of service to my country, so that I have earned a respected and rewarded place. And then I have contributed to the arts, and I am a constant contributor to the arts. And I earned my place as a producer, a facilitator, and a salonier. And once I have earned that place, then I want to be able to dance on it. I want it to be the platform that holds me up so that I can let go and express my my greatest joy, which is dancing right now. It is sex to me. It is a time of absolute ecstasy of expression. My fantasy is to have enough attention drawn to me so that I can get away with being older. And the more, this is interesting actually. I haven't thought of this before, but the older you get and the less likely a person you are to be who you want to be perceived as, okay? To be free to be who you are is to have everyone around you acknowledge it and admire you for it, rather than for you to be afraid of being judged negatively. So as much publicity as you can get, it gives you the greater leash, the greater degrees of freedom to operate in. You don't want to be so famous that everybody recognizes you immediately and wants something from you. You only want to be notorious. You only want to be known enough so that people will leave you be and you won't feel like a fool.
And that's not slipping into the center somehow, is it?
No. You need the permission of the center. Not everybody in it, but the people from the center who come out to see what you're doing on the edge, because you need an audience. You need to be able to, and that was one of the best books I ever read about Saul Hurok. The only book I read about him, one of the best books I ever read was about Saul Hurok, who taught me that the job of the impresario is not to create the artist, but to create the audience. That you bring to the audience, you bring to the star you bring to the talent the people who need to hear that talent. So an impresario is someone who people will follow to watch or listen to what they are presenting, because mostly he was presenting new talent and mostly I am presenting new talent. So I would like people to know that when Natasha presents something, or when First Shot Productions presents something, it's going to be something worth going to, even though you don't have a hell of a clue what it is. It's going to be a good party, and it's going to be something interesting. And that's what a producer of events, an impresario, does. And then I bring in the talent to feed the audience, people who I discover and like and think are worth presenting to this audience. So you have to work, I have to work both sides of the track. I have to work the artist so that I know and love and appreciate and have a show to put on, and then I have to work the outer fringes of the middle, the people who are willing to come and pay a little bit of money and be exposed to this stuff. So I have to maintain that foot in at least that much of the establishment.
You are blessed.
I am. I'm telling you, I'm blessed and I'm happy, and it would be ungrateful of me to be unfulfilled, don't you think? I've been given I'm lucky, and I'm given all these opportunities and blessings and everything. It has worked out for me. It's one of the reasons I don't want to come back. I've been lucky, everything's worked out for me. And I think, well, if I don't take advantage with all humility and gratitude of all of this good stuff that I can do, what's it all, I mean, why should I have it, you know? And it's one of the things I thought about definitely not wanting children, because children just stop you at a certain era in your own development and make you start giving back before you've had a chance to experience what else there is. They just eat up all the rest of your energy, and you become a nurturing, mothering, teaching, you know, happy person. But that's been done. It's been done. I wanted to see what else there was. I really did. I'm looking forward to developing that entire new life where I have all of the time I can to devote to whatever the hell I want to do. It's the most exciting time. I mean, it's everything I've worked toward. It's a time when everything I've become, everything I've learned, everybody I've met are all going to combine into the creation of a new time in my life, a new epoch, a new period, a new era that will realize itself in wonderful projects and travel and experience. And God, I can't, I can't wait. I'm really excited.